Commander Gibson rang Joe, whom he'd known already, and asked him would he join this special squadron that he was forming for one special trip. And Joe, as ever, said, I'll have to ask the crew, which he did, and we said yes, we'd go with him. And that was the first indication we had of a special squadron being formed for a special trip, and that was all. On no account were we to say anything to anybody about what we were doing or when we were doing it or anything. There was no mention at all of what the purpose of the squadron was. No indication of what the target was to be, and it just wasn't mentioned at all. Then when Commander Gibson gave the briefing, and he explained the business of the two routes out in the hope that it might deceive the Germans into a much bigger attack taking place, and these were two points of entry for the incoming force. And then he went on to explain that he would lead the attack with two other aircraft. They would head for the Möhne Dam. 6 others would follow him. They too would head for the Möhne, but to help if necessary. But if not, after the Möhne had been breached, they would move over to the Ada and attack that. And then 5 other crews, of which we were one, were scheduled or earmarked for the Zorpa Dam. We circled around and we saw that we had actually breached the crust of the dam for a distance of about 25 yards. Now Barnes Wallis had told us that because of the structure of the Zorpa being so different, apart from not having any towers, it had a central core and it had excuse me, banks built around it, apex banks, extending widely to the base of earth, shingle, rock, and then concrete again over the top. And Barnes Wallis had said he estimated that it would take at least 6 bombs to crack that dam. So, but if you crack it, the water pressure will do the rest. And judging from the amount of water there was in that dam, that is not surprising. I'm sure he was quite right. So, although we didn't have the satisfaction of seeing any breach, we saw that we had at least done something which has damaged it slightly. And we then set course for home. And one of the first things we saw was what had been the Möhne. We flew right over it, and it was just like an inland sea. There was water everywhere, and it was still coming out of the dam. The defences, by this time, were non-existent. I think from subsequent reading that perhaps one of the gunners escaped, but I doubt whether any of the others did. But we had at least the satisfaction of seeing part of the damage that had been done and part of the achievement of that particular attack. For that we were quite grateful.